Hello, hello. Testing if anyone is here. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm trying a new thing of streaming from my Google Meet, so I'm hoping it works. If not, let me know. So, hi everyone in Unbound Mamas. I'm Dr. Zoe Rappaport, and I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk about boundaries and intentional living as a mompreneur. Just like you, I'm both a mom and a business owner, and I know how challenging balancing the two can be. If you're anything like me, you regularly find yourself trying to figure out how to turn off either mom mode or CEO mode so that you can focus on the task at hand. For example, when you're with your child and you're thinking about all your to-dos for work, or vice versa, you're working on your business and marketing or client work, and something comes up and you're wondering what you need to serve for dinner. Are you actually out of milk? Things like that. So I get it. The pull between running a successful business and being an amazing mom is real. You want to grow, serve your clients, and make an impact, but you also don't want to miss those precious moments with your family. And let's be real, some days it feels like no matter what you do, you're letting someone down. That's exhausting. But here's the good news. You don't have to choose between success and presence. And the secret to this, it's not really a secret, it's boundaries. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to set boundaries that allow you to thrive in your business, be present with your family, and do both much more intentionally without guilt, overwhelm, or burnout. Sounds good? Okay, let's dive in. So I want to start with why boundaries are so important. Boundaries aren't about saying no all the time. They're about saying yes to what actually matters. Without boundaries, your work seeps into family time gets interrupted by work stress. It's a never-ending cycle that leaves you feeling like you're always behind and always doing something wrong. So think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I'll just send this one quick email during family dinner, only to look up 30 minutes later realizing you've missed the whole conversation? Or how often do you check your phone the second you wake up, diving straight into work mode before you've even had a moment for yourself? The truth is, when we don't set boundaries, we end up overcommitted, overstressed, and constantly feeling like we're failing in one area or the other. I'd like to do a guided reflection on this. Setting an intention is also like setting a boundary, okay? So take a moment and ask yourself, where in your life right now do you feel the most stretched? Is it work bleeding into family time? Feeling like you have to be available to clients 24/7? struggling to find even 5 minutes for yourself, unwinding and turning off the phone when you want to be present with your kids or family, write it down. Drop it in the chat. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to boundaries right now? So find the biggest area that you're too stretched and what's the biggest challenge. But I also want to be really direct about something. Setting boundaries is challenging for a lot of people, but for women, it's another level of difficult. I've worked with women who look like they're killing it, doing so great at work, nailing all the deadlines, all the projects, all the clients. But in private, they're constantly anxious about work, can't turn off their phones or notifications, and don't know how to be present with themselves, their kids, or their families. When I ask them about stronger boundaries or even any boundaries, the same feelings come up. I know I need them, but I just feel so guilty, like I'm letting everyone down. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. When those types of thoughts come up, here's what's really happening. First, sorry about that. First, we're fighting centuries of conditioning. From a young age, women are taught to be accommodating, that our worth is tied to how helpful we are, that saying no is selfish and rude, that other people's comfort matters more than our own needs. This isn't abstract. It's deeply embedded messaging that starts when we're praised as little girls for being nice and sweet. When we've tried to speak up about someone infringing on our space or body and been told, don't make it a problem. You're making it a bigger deal. I know we've all experienced that. Second, we face very real consequences for setting boundaries that men simply don't have to deal with. They're also not asked to push their boundaries nearly as far. Research shows women who set firm boundaries are more likely to be labeled difficult or not a team player, more likely to receive negative feedback about their communication style, and often penalized in subtle ways that impact our opportunities and advancement. This isn't in your head. The hesitation you feel around setting boundaries isn't weakness, it's a rational response to real patterns you've observed and most likely experienced. Third, we're doing mental calculus men don't have to do. Every boundary decision requires us to weigh, will this damage the relationship? Will I be seen as difficult? Will this limit my future opportunities? And the real one that we all measure all the time, is this worth the potential backlash? It's exhausting and it creates what I call boundary hesitation. That moment of doubt that usually leads to saying yes when you want to say no, because you've calculated that the risks of the boundary outweigh the pros. So listen closely. The guilt you feel is not a character flaw. There is nothing wrong with you. It's the result of very real social conditioning and professional realities. What I would like you to understand is just because this pattern is real doesn't mean you have to accept it and that it can't change. The most successful women I work with have learned to set boundaries, not despite these challenges, but with a full understanding of them. Knowing that setting new boundaries will come with challenges and pushback, and that we have to be strong throughout that. If you're watching this live, drop a quick yes in the chat if you've ever felt guilty about setting a boundary. I want to see if I'm the only one. And if you're watching a replay, put it in the comments. Let us know. Now let's talk about what becomes possible when you break this pattern. So here's a journaling exercise that I like to do before we move on. Grab your pen and paper, open a notes app, iPad, whatever works for you. I'm going to give you 3 prompts, and I want you to spend about a minute on each one, okay? These are just for you. No need to share unless you want to. And you can pause me while you're writing these down, okay? So prompt 1, think of a time when you were praised for putting someone else's needs before your own. What messages did you internalize from that experience? And I know a lot of you have done a lot of inner work already, so I know you get what I'm saying when what messages did you internalize? That your needs are not valid, anything along those lines, okay? Prompt 2. I'm looking over here for notes as well. Recall a specific moment when you set a boundary and felt guilty afterward. What thoughts went through your mind? Prompt 3. If you could go back and give yourself permission in that moment, what would you say to yourself now? Okay, now I want you to, after you're done writing, hold on to these insights as we move forward. Awareness of what you feel and what messages were communicated to you when you set a boundary earlier in early childhood or even recently. This awareness is the first step to breaking the guilt cycle. So let me tell you what happens now when women business owners, moms, and leaders master boundary setting. And by master, I mean get really good at it. It doesn't make it seamless, but it makes it you learn how important it is for your optimal functioning and your well-being. And this isn't theory. This is what I've witnessed with my clients over and over, what I do myself over and over. And while I'm describing it in terms of business, this is true for all areas of life. Women have to set boundaries constantly. But first things first, in your business, when you set boundaries, your business fundamentally transforms. It becomes your business, not something you're chasing after. With clear boundaries around your business, you can raise your rates and clients will pay, reduce working hours and take home the same income, improve client results because you can focus on quality over quantity, meaning taking more high-paid clients versus a lot of low-paying clients that don't align with your vision and what you enjoy doing. So setting boundaries is not just self-care, it's a business and life strategy. When you're clear about your worth, availability, and terms of working with you, 3 things happen. You filter out clients who don't respect your value, you attract people who appreciate your standards of work, and you create space for your highest value work. A second benefit, your leadership presence amplifies, it grows. Here's what a lot of women miss. Boundaries don't diminish your influence, they magnify it. Most women have been taught that boundaries are walls that separate you from others, limitations that reduce opportunities, and selfish acts that prioritize your needs over others, or even potential threats to relationships and connection. But if you've had a healthy relationship, you know, healthy relationships actually have healthy boundaries. We are all allowed limits in a healthy relationship. So if you're worried that a boundary is really going to challenge a relationship, you need to think about how strong is that relationship actually, okay? But this framework of taking in that people are telling you that boundaries are walls and only negatives creates the guilt cycle. You set a boundary, you feel guilty, you overcompensate and don't enforce the boundary, you burn out. Then you set another more desperate boundary that you also don't enforce and repeat. So you're basically trying to catch up to boundaries. But what if there's an entirely different way to view boundaries? What I've discovered through working with hundreds of women well over a decade can be transformative for you too. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters that allow the right things in and keep the wrong things out. Boundaries aren't limitations. They're the operating conditions that allow you to deliver the best work and be your best self. They are minimum requirements for maximum benefit. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're the foundation of sustainable service to others and much more joyful living. Think about a business owner or mom you value, okay? Someone you really respect. Are they available 24/7? Think about what you respect about them. Do they never say no? I seriously doubt that. I bet they have amazing empathic boundaries that show both respect for themselves and the other person. And later in this talk, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Drop in the chat or in the comments some characteristics you value in a business owner or another leader or a mentor, someone you learned from. It's probably not getting walked on by others and saying yes to absolutely everything. If anything, you've probably seen some great mompreneurs use the method I'm about to share with you, okay? And being a business owner and a mom really includes modeling healthy work-life balance for others and taking care of yourself. You're teaching both your clients and your children how to treat you. A third result of better boundaries, your personal well-being transforms. This might seem obvious, but it's important to remind yourself. When you stop overextending yourself, you'll have more energy for creative work. You'll make better decisions that aren't based on panic or anxiety or fear or guilt. You'll show up more present for the people who matter, and you'll experience more joy in your work and life because you'll be much less stressed. This is all possible when you break the guilt boundary cycle. Putting it another way, I like to describe what's called the success boundary cycle. Strong boundaries create focus. Focus produces quality work. Quality work builds reputation. Reputation attracts better opportunities, and better opportunities require stronger boundaries. You can't say yes to everything when you're getting more and more opportunities, and the cycle continues upward. A lot of women, most of us, are stuck at some point in the opposite cycle, where weak boundaries lead to overcommitment and draining energy. Overcommitment reduces quality. Reduced quality affects results, and poor results damage our confidence. And when we have low confidence, it makes setting boundaries even harder because we feel like we don't deserve them. So the question isn't whether you can afford to set boundaries, it's whether you can afford not to. One more quick check-in. What's one specific area, let me check the comments, where you know stronger boundaries would improve your business or leadership? Okay, drop it in the chat below or comments if you're watching the replay. What area do you know you need stronger boundaries that would really improve your business, leadership, or mompreneurship or balance? Okay. Now I'm going to get practical about how to actually do this. Frameworks and blueprints. Okay. So this is a powerful reframing exercise that has helped many of my clients shift their relationship and ideas around boundaries. Okay, first, think of a boundary you've been hesitant to set. Maybe it's not checking email after 6 p.m. or not responding to emails after 6 p.m. Start at the lowest baseline, okay? We're not going to start at the highest boundary, at the most challenging boundary. I want you to start with something that can really be implemented. So maybe it's not checking email after 6 p.m. Maybe it's raising your rates. Maybe it's saying no to certain types of projects that don't align with your vision or interests. Or maybe it's limiting your availability for meetings to certain days. Now keep one in mind, okay? Now, instead of thinking of this as a boundary, I want you to reframe it as an operating condition for excellence, a minimum requirement so you can operate at your best. This isn't just semantics. These words are important. It will completely shift the energy. For example, I don't check email after 6 p.m. isn't strong enough. It has to be, I don't check email after 6 p.m. because I maintain focused evening time every evening so I can be fully present with my family and return to work with renewed creativity and energy. You need to recharge. Or I charge premium rates becomes I ensure my energy is properly valued so I can deliver exceptional results to clients who are serious about transformation and the work, not minimal results to clients who are just taking up time. Take a moment to rewrite your boundary as an operating condition, okay? Use that term for excellence. How does that shift your feelings around it? Now, and again, pause if you're watching the replay. Take time to actually do this exercise, okay? Now imagine explaining this operating condition to someone, not as an apology, but as a professional standard that benefits everyone involved. What changes in your tone, posture, and confidence when you frame it this way? This reframing is something you can practice anytime you feel the guilt creeping in. And again, I'm going to say this so many times, but remember, your boundaries aren't punishments to others, okay? They're not a punishment. No one is in trouble because you set a boundary. They're the conditions that allow you to show up as your best self. To make it even more simple, here are some very common helpful boundaries for mompreneurs. These are areas that a lot of mompreneurs really need to want to focus on, okay? So setting clear work hours versus mom hours, okay? You need clear work hours and clear family hours. No more blending them together where you're working but feeling guilty or with your kids but distracted. I'm not saying it's not going to happen at all, but being more intentional will help it happen so much less. For example, I work from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and after that, I'm in mom mode. I'm unavailable to clients. Tell your clients, put it in your email signature and stick to it. So I've actually told a lot of new clients this when I'm getting inquiries, because I'm also a psychologist and I do coaching. I also do neuropsych testing, and my hours are very specific. And if people ask, I'm very clear. I'm like, I'm here. These are my work hours and these are my family hours, and I take care of that. And it's never been a problem. But if it is, they're not my client, and that's okay too. So many people respect the boundary and actually appreciate that I'm setting them. and want to do it for themselves. They learn from it and they value it and they respect it. So try this, okay? What's one small boundary you can set around work hours this week? What's going to be your focus time? Okay, and I know my kid's been home sick, the school's canceled every other week, so again, it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's a very helpful boundary. Now, another one is phone and email boundaries, okay? Turn off notifications outside work hours. Emails don't need an instant reply. It's never an emergency. Example, I check emails at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. I'm not saying this is what I do, but this could be an example of it for people who do a ton of project work. They can't be pulling back and forth between project and emails. It takes them out of their focus zone. And you can also write, I check emails at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. You can expect a response within 24 hours. You can also set a phone curfew where you put it away and focus on your family. This is actually good practice for everyone in the family to break our phone addictions. And I personally have no notifications after 8 p.m. Certain family members can obviously break through that kind of thing, but I don't get email, no numbers show up, nothing shows up to be a distraction or an overstimulation for me after 8 p.m. Another one is guilt-free me time. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else or everyone else. You need to schedule self-care like a business meeting because you are the CEO of your life too. You're the only one running your life. For example, it could be every Thursday night is my recharge time, no exceptions. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. What's one thing you wish you had time for? How can you actually schedule it this week? Something I've done for myself is I schedule virtual training twice a week, 11 a.m. on Mondays and 4 p.m. on Thursdays. I do have to skip it sometimes, but it is scheduled and it's only if it's really undoable. And it keeps me on track and it makes me slow down and feel better. And it's with another mom trainer who understands the chaos. That's another thing. I love working with moms because we just get each other. The next one is saying no without guilt, okay? Instead of overcommitting, try responses like, I'd love to help, but I'm at capacity right now. That sounds great. Let me check my availability and get back to you. You also never have to answer something right away. You can always pause, power pause, okay? And come back to it. All right, type of boundary you'd like to set and either update it with these new frameworks or let me know. You can email, you can DM me, you can post it in the comments and I can help you refine it, okay? Now for the part you've been waiting for, how do you actually set clear boundaries without the guilt? Here's a 3-part framework that works specifically for women business owners and moms, okay? I call it the ARC method. And, honestly, if you've been reading any, toddler parenting training, things like that, it's all very similar, okay? So first you have to assess your non-negotiables, right? Most boundary failures happen because we're not clear on what matters most to us. So we start here. Create 3 categories: time, energy, and value. And for each category, I'm going to ask you to identify your absolute non-negotiables, okay? For time, this might be no client calls after 6 p.m. or fully unplugged weekends or meeting-free Wednesdays for deeper work. The last one is a really good example of time blocking, which I think is something a lot of us mompreneurs are not great at. I'm still working on it myself, but that's a great example. For energy, consider types of clients you won't work with, projects that drain you, and situations that consistently deplete you. A lot of business coaches will talk to you. This is a niche, right? Who are your ideal clients? But you also have to think about who are your least ideal clients, because they'll still reach out. And again, if it's not where you shine and it's not where you're going to do your best work, it's not a good fit, and that's okay. For value, include minimum rates you'll accept before you feel serious resentment, payment terms you require. Is it monthly? Is it a payment plan? Is it paid in full? Do you need to have a credit card on file? There's a lot of different ways to go about it. And how you expect to be treated. No rude behavior, no rude language, everything. And here's a crucial part that's easily missed. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You need to know why each boundary matters to you. So I don't take calls after 6 p.m. isn't powerful enough to make you stick to it, usually. I don't take calls after 6 p.m. because that time is dedicated to my family, which allows me to be fully present with clients during work hours, connects your boundary to a deeper purpose. And then it doesn't feel like a random boundary at all. It feels really valuable. Again, this isn't just semantics. When you connect boundaries to your core values and how you want your life to live and look and be intentional about it, the guilt diminishes dramatically. You feel validated for your boundary. The next one is the R of the ARC method. Excuse me. Respond with confidence. Okay. Let's talk about communication. Another live I'm going to be doing over and over again in my group. Communication is the moment of truth for most boundaries. I've created what I call boundary response scripts. Okay. These are scripts that you can follow. You can, plug and play, use them in most situations. And these are flexible frameworks that will help you communicate clearly without over-explaining or apologizing. We as women have got to stop apologizing for having thoughts, feelings, boundaries, words, right? How many times do you say, sorry, but I think maybe, oh, sorry, we don't need to do that. We don't have to be sorry for existing. And sorry, my rant. The basic structure of the respond with confidence has 3 parts: appreciation, clear boundary, alternative solution. Here's how it sounds in practice. Thank you for thinking of me for this project. Appreciation. Currently, my client schedule is fully booked through the end of the quarter or month. Clear boundary. I'd be happy to discuss starting this in April, or I can offer an alternative way of working together. Alternative solution. Notice what's not in there. No apologies, no over explanation, and no wavering. Remove the fluff and apologies from your responses always. You can be kind, you can be respectful, but we need to remove the fluff, the filler. When you're tempted to justify or apologize, remember, again, your boundaries are not punishments to others. I'll repeat this 100 times. They're the minimum requirements that allow you to deliver your best work. They're the basic operating conditions for a successful business, life, balance, and joy. The C of the ARC method, consistency through systems. So this is a great thing that I've helped a lot of my business clients do. Excuse me, hold on. Ooh, excuse me. Okay, so the final piece, is creating systems that maintain your boundaries so you're not constantly having to enforce them, because that's where I see people getting the most strained, is constantly having to restate boundaries with every new client. And when I say boundaries, I mean basic parameters of operations, okay? So some examples that I help people set up for themselves: email signatures that state your response times. Kind of like we talked before, right? I will check my emails at this time and get back to you within 24 hours. Onboarding documents that outline your process, what the expected turnaround time is, what they can expect from you. Scheduling systems that only show your available times. I can't tell you how many people still don't have calendar links that make it super easy to not be overbooked and not negotiate your schedule. I'm just being told there might be some internet issues, so apologies if I'm cutting in and out. I'll do my best. So scheduling systems, calendar link. Another one that we created are email and conversation templates for common boundary scenarios, conversations and emails that come up, so that you don't have to write the whole thing from scratch each time. Gmail has great great template options. I mean, they don't make them for you, but if someone's saying, I need this, scope creep, right? If someone's trying to expand the work that you already promised to do, you can have an email template for that. You don't have to stress too much about how to phrase it because you've already decided a phrase that works for you. One client created what we called a working with me guide, and she shared it with every new client and reduced boundary issues by over 80%. This could be in the initial referral form, in a contract, or even an email template. And there's ways to make it so that you know they're reading each piece, whether they have to initial each pieces or fill it out before they even get a phone call to work with you. And why did it reduce boundary challenges? Because it positioned her boundaries as professional standards, not personal preferences. The key to consistency is removing yourself as the boundary enforcer. It's paperwork. When the systems do the heavy lifting, you don't have to have the difficult conversations as often, and that alleviates a lot of energy drainage. Before we move on, I want to address the question I get asked the most and that I know everybody has. What about pushback? So here's what I've learned. When you set boundaries clearly, consistently, and from a place of service rather than resentment, pushback decreases dramatically. It will still happen, especially when you're changing and implementing new boundaries. But when it does happen, remember, pushback is information, not an emergency. You can acknowledge their feelings without changing your boundary, and that doesn't work for me is a complete sentence. Okay, quick check-in now. What's one boundary you're committed to implementing this week? Be specific on why it's important for you and what it will do for you, just like we talked about. Setting intentions and making a commitment is where transformation begins. One of the last things for today, I want to help you create your boundary blueprint, okay? So I want to take what we've learned and turn it into your personalized boundary blueprint. So take out your journal or notes app again. And first, we're going to identify one boundary in each category that will make the biggest difference in your life right now. First, time boundary. When will you be unavailable? What hours are sacred? Number 2, energy boundary. What types of work, clients, or situations will you limit or eliminate? And I'm not saying take on, because I think we're all getting a sense of what clients we want to take on, but we're also learning in that process of who we need to let go. Next is the value boundary. What standards around compensation, treatment, or recognition will you uphold? Okay. Now for each boundary, write down the deeper why behind this boundary, what it protects or enables you to do or have, or even feel. One system you could create to maintain this boundary. Is it a piece of paper for you? Is it an onboarding document for them? Is it an email template? And a brief script using the appreciation boundary alternative framework. Okay, this blueprint is your personalized roadmap for implementing boundaries that stick. And I definitely recommend revisiting it, refining to it, adding to it, updating it regularly as you put these boundaries into practice and see what's working, what's not, because that's another thing people really forget. Our boundaries and our needs change over time. So the framework I've shared today and the background I've shared today is really powerful, and hopefully it gets you started on your journey. You can certainly begin implementing it on your own. But to be honest, and I think you all know this because you're all in these groups, transforming your relationship with boundaries, it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about rewiring patterns that have been reinforced for years or even decades for most of us. And that kind of deep change rarely happens in isolation. The women I know who experience the most profound boundary breakthroughs are those who have support, accountability, and expert guidance as they navigate the transformation. And that's why I'd love to invite you to join my free Facebook community. It's a growing community called Women Who Rise, so we continue to work together on these goals. Okay? When we work together, we address specific boundary challenges in your unique context. You know, whatever is specifically happening to you. It's not about generic advice. Yes, I love frameworks and strategies, but sometimes you really need some specific help, right, with your specific situation. And it's about creating strategies tailored to your particular business or leadership role, team dynamics, family dynamics, both client and personal relationships, personal values and priorities. All of that will speak to what your boundaries are, because your boundaries are going to be different than mine. We also work through the inevitable resistance that comes up when you start implementing stronger boundaries. There will be resistance to change. People do not like change. You, other people, but that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile and that it's not better in the long run. And so this is where most women get stuck when trying to make changes on their own. Because when you set new boundaries, there will be some pushback, even if you minimize it with the ARC method and with systems in place, okay? So what can become possible? That's what I want you to think about. What is possible if I set these boundaries for myself? So the women I work with experience transformations that are way beyond just having more time. That's just one, early visible effect of better boundaries. They develop confidence in their value that translates to higher rates and better clients. They have much better focused time with their family. They create sustainable success without the burnout and resentment. They build leadership presence that brings about respect. I mean, so many women I work with end up mentoring others and are so excited to serve in that way. They model healthy boundaries, both for their teams and families, and they reconnect with the passion that led them to their work in the first place. If you're really struggling to connect with your work, it's burnout, and it's likely because you don't have boundaries and you might not have a clear vision of what work you like to do and who you want to work with. So if what I've shared today resonates with you, I'd love to have you join my free community, which comes with a free strategy call. Okay, no high pressure sales call. It's a genuine exploration to understand your specific boundary challenges, identify what's really keeping you stuck, and determine if my approach would be the right support for your journey and help you create a clear path forward. Okay. If there's any questions, I don't think we have a lot of live participants, but again, on the replay, please drop any questions or comments, any questions in the comments, and I'll be able to see it and get back to you. And if there's one thing I hope you take away, it's this. The boundaries you set aren't just about protecting your time and energy. They're about creating an intentional and balanced and joyful life. You don't need permission to prioritize what matters most to you. And when you do prioritize what matters most, everything changes. Your business, your mentorship, your confidence, your sense of possibility. Okay, I'm going to drop my link for the community in the comments. And if you're ready for deeper transformation, I'd love to connect with you personally. All right, thank you again for your time and engagement. And I can't wait to see what becomes possible for you as you put into practice these strategies. Everyone, have a great afternoon.